Hello everybody, this is Natalie again. We're talking more about Moses today and how you would present that to your second grade CCD class. Last time we talked about how I presented baby Moses to my class, and it happened to be a short lesson. So this past week, yesterday, we started with Moses as a young man. I show this video. I get it at my local library, the 10 Commandments. Now, this is not the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston from 1960s. This is fairly new. It is animated. The main character, Moses, the voice is Christian Slater. I think that if you searched on 10 Commandments, it seems quite popular. Many of our area libraries have it. You could probably find it. Our parish doesn't happen to own this particular video, although if you check with your DRE, it's a good chance that she's got several videos, and some of the stories of Moses are apt to be one of them. I really like this one. Now, we don't watch this whole thing straight through. This starts with Moses as a baby and goes all the way, boy, I'm not even sure I've watched the whole thing. I think it goes all the way through his whole life, so it's quite long. I take bits and pieces as I want to, and just watch those parts. So yesterday we started with Moses as a young man. The movie shows him as a prince in Egypt, and then as we know the story, he sees one of the slave drivers hurting and abusing a slave, and he ends up killing that man. So he has to flee. Now, of course, this is a story for children, so there's a few points that I think are not especially clear, because if I have it right, Moses killed the man on purpose. In the movie, it's shown as an accident. But I just leave it at that and we go on. I don't think it's so important to the story, except the fact that he killed the man and he then gets thrown out. Pharaoh does not kill him, but exiles him from Egypt. Now, Moses then lives in the desert for many years. I skip over that part as far as when he was married and has a family and all that. I skip over that part, and I just say that now when we see Moses again, he's a fairly old man. And we'll meet up with Moses and see what God asks of him. At that point is when the burning bush comes up. And the children really like to see the burning bush and how it doesn't get consumed by the fire. And one main part that is shown in this particular video is God asks Moses to take his shoes off because he's on holy ground. And the children seem to really hear that, and they talk about that as we discuss the story later. As we know, in the burning bush, God asked Moses to go back to Pharaoh and ask Pharaoh to let his people go free. And Moses wants to lead them back to the promised land. And Moses asks some questions. God, how can I do this? I don't speak very well. How can I ask Pharaoh? And of course, he says to ask his brother Aaron for help. So as the movie goes on, we see Moses go back, and this is the first time he asks Pharaoh, would you let my people go free? My God wants you to let them go free. But Pharaoh, of course, does not. And now, also keep in mind that this is another Pharaoh. This is Ramses, the young man that Moses was raised with as his brother, as his prince. In the story, they call each other cousin. I think the Pharaoh at this time is really his mother's brother, if I understand right. But in any case, they call him cousin. That's fine. So it's a different man at this point in time. He goes to Pharaoh and says, let my people go free. And Pharaoh says, no, I'm not going to do that. And in matter of fact, he gives the Hebrew slaves even more work to do. They're making bricks for him. And they say, well, I'm going to just make it harder for them. Instead of me giving them the straw to make bricks, they got to find their own straw now. So, of course, the Hebrew slaves are very unhappy with Moses because now they have even more work to do. At that point is where I stop, because right after that is when Moses speaks to God again, and then God brings the 10 plagues onto Egypt. I felt like as of that point, talking about the burning bush and Moses trying to lead his people out of slavery was just the right amount for the one class period. So that's where we stopped for the day, at least as far as the story. And as you know, you've watched my videos, I always have some sort of a craft project of some sort at the last part of class in order to reinforce the story. What I had this time was this. It's probably originally was a coloring sheet from someplace, but what I've done is make it so that we make a diorama out of the burning bush. So I have the students color this, and I always say you've got to do your best coloring because you're going to take this home and show it to your family, and they want to know about the story that you've read. So they're going to color this, and then we're going to cut it out because we're going to make it into a diorama rather than just a coloring sheet. So what that means is once we cut that out, the pieces look kind of like this. What I'm going to do is wrap them into kind of a round shape so that they'll stand up. So I kind of wrap them up like so. And then I staple them. Let's see if I can do that here. You just sort of staple them like so. And then they'll stand up. And I always have a paper plate. And you can put that here. And then I just kind of tape that on. And then the two pieces will stand up and they'll be, 3D. I always have them leave space here to write some sort of a title. Now the title on the coloring sheet was I Am That Am. If they want, sometimes they glue that on. That's fine. Other times, depending on the students, they may write take off your shoes, Moses, or something like that. It kind of depends on what they want. At this point in time, you also have to keep in mind how you want to run your class. The thing that happened to me just yesterday was, now this paper plate is fairly flat, but the one I had was a little bit more rounded here like some paper plates are. And one of the students said, oh, can I put mine on so it's upside down? And I just decided, no, you cannot do that. That is not what we're doing. We're putting it on this way so that it sits nicely when you get home on your kitchen table so your mom can see it and your dad, your brothers, whoever can see it. As a teacher in CCD, you've got to understand that you can say yes or no to certain things. A lot of times I don't care exactly how they do it. They're the artist. I want them to express themselves in certain ways. On the other hand, sometimes I can see it in their face that they're just trying to do it the opposite way just to see if they can do it the opposite way. And in this case, I decided, no, we're not putting it on upside down because it's not going to stand nicely when you get home. That's all for now. Next time we'll talk about Moses and the 10 plagues. Bye for now.